one of the parents even asked me after one of the outings where I was absolutely dominant on the mound. He said, well, he didn't even ask me. He just said to me, I think you're going to deserve the game ball today. And I said, yeah, that'll happen when you strike out the side 2 straight innings.
And this is at your kid's little league.
Yeah. Me on the mound, just
loosening up the arm. Are you striking out your own kids or kids on other teams?
Yeah, on your own kids. That's the worst part.
That does make it, I guess, more fair. But I guess you could just throw meatballs to your own kids, though.
Well, you're supposed to try to throw to like the same velocity and like, quality of pitches as the current pitcher you're relieving, but you're supposed to like get them over the plate. So there were times where I was just painting the outside and the kids would look at me and be like, well, that's not a strike. And you also call balls and strikes. So of course I was dominating. I was calling strikes on everything I threw.
Now, the way you explain this now, I'm surprised there aren't more arguments in Little League, because there would be. This is just rife for conflict, right?
Yeah, if you're pitching to the other team, 100%. I mean,
sure,
if you were umping for but I am umping. I do ump for their pitcher.
Right. Oh, you do?
I ump for their pitcher while my team's batting, and then if I call ball 4, then I take over and I pitch to my team and I strike them out.
Do you ever get parents that
because there's no strike? Yeah, JP got kicked out of the game 2 weeks ago. We were talking about.
I know that.
I didn't get kicked out.
I know that time.
Right.
I didn't get kicked out.
You didn't get kicked out. I got arrested. That's different.
Yeah. By league rules, I wasn't kicked out.
Right, exactly.
Police rules, I was in jail.
Police, right. Man, yeah, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest that there is conflict.
In baseball?
Well, in Little League baseball.
In general? For me?
When you're at our age and you don't have, if you don't have children, there's not really a lot of excuses for you to be at a Little League game. And if you're here just to say, I'm scouting the younger generation, that's another way to go to jail rather quickly.
Yeah,
so I
also get parents yelling at you.
I haven't watched a Little League game in ever, but
you guys, we had that happen. So after that same game, after the continuation game of that same game where things got real heated, then some of the parents went over to the other field because the team then we had to play the next day, or either of the 2 teams we had to play the next day was playing in their elimination game. Winner played us, loser left.
Right.
And while they were watching, they noticed out on one of the big trees out in the outfield, there was this man who looked a little haggard, but just mind his own business, leaning up against the tree, sitting on the ground.
I thought you meant
I
up
say
in the
this
tree.
as a bleeding-hearted liberal who loves Portland, but also it is Portland, and it is a part.
It's hard.
Just because there's a man who's haggard, it's we're outside in daylight. There's only so much we can do here.
Until he took off his clothes and started walking towards the field.
Again.
I mean, that's terrible, but also.
Yeah. Parents had intervened and asked if he was okay. They didn't know if it was a medical emergency or what was going on.
Yeah.
And,
how many clothes?
How many clothes?
All of his clothes. He was naked.
He was
Yeah.
It was his bare butt, balls, and back.
Yeah. But he started getting combative and tried to fight these dads that were trying to get him away.
Right.
That's a tough position to be in.
The 4 or 5 dads had to wrestle this naked man to the ground and get him to leave.
Yo, that's
a tough wrestle.
If there's a naked man in a park and you tell him to be anything other than naked or in that park, it's a tall order. You're asking for a confrontation.
Yeah. It's too late. He's already made up his mind. You're not getting in the way.
That guy doesn't have anything to lose, especially his clothes. He's already lost them.
If the 24 children playing baseball next to him didn't stop him, 4 grown-ups definitely aren't either.
My God, dude, that's creepy.
Yeah. And then,
those kids will be telling that story for a while.
the next night we played at the park again, our game against the winner of that said game, and Ev wanted to stay late and just play in the field, like hit a ball, run around, field other kids that wanted to hit, pitch to them. Anyways, it started to really dwindle down. There was only 3 kids left. I'm like, Ev, we got to go. And then I look across the field. We're on the other opposite field, but still I look across the field. There's a man leaned up, hunched, I guess, next to a tree. And I'm looking at him, and he's kind of looking over towards our field. And I was like, Ev, we got to go. We got to go now. Run to me now. Because he was all the way in the outfield, closer towards him. And he's like, why? Why do I have to leave? I'm like, get over here now. But we escaped before the naked man got naked, at least.
Same guy or different guy?
I don't know. I didn't see him the last time. I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there. You just heard the story.
Yeah. The parents on our team were like, oh, yeah, we went over to the other game. You should have seen the chaos. And I was like, oh, about the game.
Oh, my God.
No, the naked man.
Oh, dude, that is just creepy.
That still sounds like a more organized weekend of baseball than what took place in Eugene this past weekend.
Wow.
I'm not sure if we were ready for a segue or even to start talking shit, but
Never too early to talk shit.
I literally thought that when we started the story 9.5 minutes ago, and I was like, don't forget to make this about the Ducks, Terry. I know I'm normally the one to nip this in the bud and be like, hey guys, it's not an Oregon Sucks podcast. It's an Oregon State is Great podcast. But when you become one of the first ever teams to go 0-2 at your own regional, I think it begs the question, is playing in the Big Ten regular season adequate preparation to play in the postseason?
I don't know. You could ask USC too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nebraska could ask. Who else made I know UCLA's still in it, but fuck them.
I'll tell you what. I saw
they don't count.
That the Big Ten and the SEC are now solely deciding on what the football playoff format should be. But those two should lose privileges just based on the performance of both of those conferences this last weekend. Right. The Big Ten was awful. They didn't get any teams. They didn't get any teams into the final, into the supers. But the SEC.
Is UCLA out?
UCLA still in.
Yeah. I love that. I thought that, and then you corrected me. But then
you said that.
You're like, who cares? Whatever. UCLA, whatever. Fuck UCLA.
Yeah.
But
we beat them, so they don't. Yeah.
UCLA doesn't count at anything anymore. Still.
But the SEC, man, what a fucking awful showing this last weekend.
Almost the entire SEC make the turn. I saw someone was like, 11 of the 13 SEC teams in the tournament are now eliminated. I'm like, 13 SEC teams in the tournament? There's still 16 SEC teams? That's fucking ridiculous. Who didn't make it in the tournament proper from the SEC?
Yeah, who didn't make it?
Mississippi State, maybe?
No, they made it.
Auburn, maybe?
Auburn's still in it.
Okay, well.
Yeah, Alabama made it.
I'm showing how, poised and
we're in a bubble.
In tune I am. We're in a bubble. I watched every inning of the Corvallis Regional. Well, I've watched every inning of Oregon State's games in the Corvallis Regional.
Yeah, same.
I didn't watch TCU USC, and I don't apologize
play
for that.
On for quite a bit of the weekend. Shout out Mike Rooney.
Shout out
friend
Mike
of the
Rooney.
pod.
Good friend of the pod.
Yeah,
we love Mike.
He and the cast on Squeeze Play, man, those guys are grinding it out over the weekend. I think they were on air at 9 a.m. and off air at 12 and did it for 4 or 5 straight days. Great way to watch the tournament, though.
It's a great name, too, especially when you're watching Oregon State score on 9 straight Squeeze Plays. Win a game 40-2 with they must have hit a lot of home runs. Nope, it was just infield singles, sack bunts, and sack flies, small ball range.
And Trent Caraway.
And Trent Caraway bombing. That's why I do love this Oregon State team, because it literally does everything. And shouts to Gavin Turley, who is now the owner of both the home run record and RBI record at Oregon State.
Yes.
And is swinging a very hot bat as we go into this Super Regional weekend where Oregon State is hosting once again.
Also, shout out to Ivar Arquette, who hit, I believe, his 13th home run of the season, but first in Goss. His first ever
Oh my
home
God,
run in
that's
Goss.
crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah.
I know he had a very road tilted schedule because of
I think we had 19 home games this year.
because of reasons.
Yeah.
Because of reasons.
Yeah. I don't want to be too mad about conference realignment on the show because I think this is a very good time to celebrate and be happy for a lot of reasons. This is the first time I've seen you guys since I saw you in person at my fucking wedding.
For what?
Hey, congratulations to Terry.
It's
for
we
those
still
that
got
don't
it.
know.
It's
Look
still
at that.
there. It's still there.
Such a loser.
We're all such losers. Look at this. Just three married guys
Wedding bands.
on a podcast.
Are they all gold?
No, mine's platinum. Yup.
Oh,
If you can, I know I
Son,
have the worst
look at
webcam here, but
Well, it looks gold on the webcam, on your webcam.
it does kind of look
it's
gold
still,
on the
it's as
webcam.
good as gold.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But so yeah, it was a very, very fun weekend. It was great
It was.
to see you guys. And because of that,
It was.
I don't have a lot of rainy day money just to pack up and fly out for the Supers this weekend. Maybe catch you in Omaha, though. I don't. Benny, another huge occasion. Episode 182 of the Belligerent Beavs podcast. This is Benny's first outline.
Yeah. Ever.
No.
Do a double take at the text, man. It was like, I threw in some notes. You guys can add if you want. And I was like, I didn't know that Benny opened this document ever. And I looked at it and I was like, no notes. This is perfect. This is a very baseball heavy episode. Very
Pretty robust. Pretty robust.
Very
All right.
robust. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so fun to see you guys here in Minneapolis. I'm glad we got great weather for it. I'm glad Oregon State baseball did their thing and we got to talk a little bit of college baseball. The wedding was the weekend before the regionals, to be clear. And then we just kind of took some time. We're like, we don't want to record in the middle of regionals. It makes it a little clunky. And then we lost to St. Mary's in the first game. It's kind of like shit. Like, is the next episode just going to be like, all right, Oregon State sports are done until football. Let's just try and get through the summer swoon, whatever. And the next 4 games, 3 games, 4, whatever, fuck it. The next few days, man, just
Turned it on.
Best 3 days of baseball I can remember
4 games,
since 2018.
It was so much fun and just a true, I love that we had that doubleheader where we won what, 20-3 in the first game and then
14-0.
14-1 in the second game, I think. I think it was 34-4.
Oh,
wasn't it?
14-1.
Yeah, so 30,
and then
34-4 in 18 innings in 24 hours. We love to throw out stats that you can't track, but maybe the most fun 18 innings of baseball in a singular day at Goss. At least for sure since 2018, but definitely, there's obviously a lot of work to do. And when you're the number 8 seed nationally, you end up hosting, like the highest seed that is not hosting, which is the case with the Florida State Seminoles. So we aren't going to, overlook them. Maybe we will a little bit because we like to talk shit and think and just manifest those Jello shots at Rocco's because there hasn't been a College World Series appearance for baseball since we started this podcast. It's come close basically every single year. And whether we're in Omaha personally or not, we will be there in spirit if the team's there. But yeah, it was just the right explosion at the right time. And it was such a fun few days watching this team and staying up too late.
You get hot at the right time. I mean, baseball, I think, is maybe the only, softball as well, but those two sports are really the only ones where you can actually carry your heater through multiple games and series, whereas
for sure,
pretty much every other sport, you might have a hot stretch for a week or a hot hand on the court or something, but it's very unlikely to carry over across multiple matchups, multiple games, multiple series. So this is the time to get hot by all means, because we just need 2 more.
Well, and it's tough to like in basketball or football where you can sort of game plan and stop or prevent the strength that the other team is flexing. You can't really do that in baseball. So you're right. Like that sort of momentum does carry, and we can get into this more. I know we have to get to the beer segment, but
we don't have to.
Okay.
We can.
All right. Well, I have water.
But I was thinking about this today. I did go to the liquor store. I didn't buy anything special. Our favorite liquor store just recently started stocking Sam's favorite wine again after not doing so for like a 9-month period. So I was for sure going to pick up.
You did a good job protesting.
You're right. I was just
did you pick it out front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess we're drinking hams, babe.
And I was even thinking about it. I have a non-hams, but also it's just like, I mean, like how much art. Like JP and I aren't diversifying our bonds much in terms of beer anymore. We'll like have the casual, like, oh yeah, this is a thing I thought looked cool, and it is good, whatever. And then like Benny barely drinks anymore unless it's like my wedding, in which you did a great job turning up this past weekend, Benny.
Yeah,
and I
had some White Claws.
I hope you turned up in Chicago as well.
I topped you on the White Claws at Terry's wedding. Absolutely.
Did you?
I bankrupt whoever funded that bar. Because I had way more than that. I had way more than 13.
My parents, but that's what we wanted. We were like, this is too much money. And I was like, have you met my friends? And they were like, great point.
Ben can drink 13 White Claws. It's happened once before.
Benny doesn't drink anymore unless he drinks 13 White.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I had a quarter of that at your wedding, and I was feeling it every single mile of the 400 miles that I drove the next morning.
It's not
something's wrong with me because I definitely had like probably close to 15 White Claws that night.
And
I felt totally fine the next morning.
Right.
When I had 13, I was standing in a Chipotle
even afterwards. Right.
I came to the bar.
Right.
I brought you your keys like a good human does.
Not my car keys. Just so the listener knows, it wasn't my car
hotel room keys.
It was these hotel room keys that I needed to get in later.
I traversed over the river. I walked from the hotel to the bar.
Walking off those alcohol calories.
It was probably a good thing because every time I stopped to try to see if I could unlock a scooter, I couldn't figure out how to unlock it. And finally I was like, it's probably a sign I can't figure out how to unlock this. So I'm going to just walk.
Yeah. Betty, I'm glad you guys made it to Chicago, and I'm glad you went to Wrigley. And I know you had been to Chicago before, and lived in Chicago before. I unfortunately not at the same time, although maybe fortunately not at the same time, because we would have gotten into maybe a little too much fun.
Fair.
But I think that was the first time you ever drove from Minneapolis to Chicago, which is drivable, but that's also a drive you kind of need to be ready for, because before you do it, you don't understand how big of a state Wisconsin is and how
Wisconsin is massive.
It just keeps going and going. And there are some like areas where it's like, oh, this is hilly and nice. Look at these bluffs. But in between all those areas it's a lot of nothing. And a lot of speed traps, and people either driving way too slow or way, way, way too fast. And you're like, what the hell is happening on these roads out here?
Yeah, the closer we got to Chicago, the more aggressive the driving was. But we left before 6. It was like 5:30 when we were on the road.
That you guys were able to pull that
morning?
Yeah, we left at like 5:30 in the morning. Because my parents were in Chicago, and so we only had a day and a half with them, so we wanted to get down there relatively early. But yeah, man, we were in Wisconsin for hours and hours. I
should have invited your parents, and then you wouldn't have had to wake up at 5 a.m. the next day.
Nice of you to think about that now, Terry.
Yeah, wow. So considerate. Well, we milked our Monday morning as long as possible because it was wonderful without children, though I did become like a de facto father of your nephew for 2 days.
Dude.
Yeah.
I really wasn't childless.
I know. I thought about saying something.
The number
to him,
of people who asked me who had never seen Ev, if that was my child, I can't even count on one hand.
He does look like you.
Yeah,
he's got the gingy details.
Yeah, and then oddly also the number of times that Annie got asked if she was Sam's sister.
Yeah,
was also more than she
they're
can
like the same height,
right? I didn't. Yeah, they're very similar heighted people, and that dark hair, Italian accents. It's interesting.
Interesting. That's your wife you're talking about.
It's interesting.
So hold on,
it's our wives I'm talking about. But it was an incredible weekend. Incredible weekend. It was followed up by another incredible weekend. Yeah, we did just a little quick road trip. Real honeymoon will be next spring sometime. But we were back in Minneapolis in time for me to watch just about every inning of the regional at the Garage Bar. And
she knows what she's getting herself
the good times rolling now. Pretty hard. She knew before. So it was...
Yeah, that's fair. You did come to the Boise State game with me on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that was an amazing Thanksgiving.
It was one of the best Thanksgivings, I would argue.
Probably the only time I'll ever have Thanksgiving dinner at a wild buffet at 10 p.m. and with just my buddy.
It was so good, and
delicious.
It was right.
It was amazing.
It was walking distance.
Yeah, we walked across a parking lot.
Yeah,
Boise, your
best restaurant in Boise.
Anyway,
So hold on, are we not doing the beer segment anymore?
Well, we can keep doing the beer segment. I'm drinking a Mick Golden in a old school Benny Koozie. There it is.
Cool.
Ooh. Guess what I'm drinking? Starburst.
Fuck yeah,
nice.
I went to Great Notion last night. That was fun.
Nice. Wait,
shout out Great Notion.
Yeah, I had Matt's barbecue tacos, baby.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I've not had those, but
I haven't eaten at Great Notion in a while, but I do love their food.
Well, no, they switched their kitchens now. Matt's, Matt's barbecue, like the cart that made all the smoked brisket and all the.
Oh, is it like Texas barbecue?
It's Texas barbecue. And then now they opened up another smaller cart that did their barbecue in tacos, including like breakfast tacos that are served all day if you want them.
Hell yes.
And then they opened up in the kitchen of Great Notion. So now you go to Great Notion, get a beer, and get a Matt's barbecue taco.
Oh, that's amazing. Dude, when I was growing up, I was all about like Memphis barbecue, the sweet barbecue sauce. But like now it's Texas or bust for me. Texas barbecue is by far the best.
I do think Texas is the best. And Casey is very similar, but I love just that, that deep red barbecue sauce. That brisket that you can feel for a week and a half.
Yep, still feeling it from last night.
Oh, man, I had jealous.
The brisket taco and the pork belly taco. It was amazing.
Oh man,
there you go.
Both of those sound really
good. What did
you
drink?
Yeah,
was there also like a brisket? Was there like a brisket porter?
They were out. Yeah.
Brisket porter.
What did
it's
I have?
Just liquid brisket. 18% ABV.
I don't remember.
Why we're skipping the beer segment.
I had a West Coast IPA and then a hazy, but I don't remember the names of them. But I should because they were like pretty straightforward. But I don't remember. Sorry. Maybe I had one too many.
No, that'll happen.
Well, you had 15 White Claws.
Yeah. Right. If I have 15 White Claws, I can have 15 hazies. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. That's
maybe like
that's boy math for you. And Benny's drinking water, but so what were you going to say?
I'm drinking water, but I do have a Zen, so that's my vice for today.
Oh,
there you go.
So you talked about the loss to the St. Mary's to open up the regional.
I mentioned that it happened. I don't know that I really talked about it. I more lived that loss through your text
You said that Oregon State did lose to St. Mary's.
Say it out loud. That counts as talking.
So before we get into the regional and looking forward to the super regional, I want to say I really hope Oregon State figures out this independent schedule going forward, because I think that played a big part in the St. Mary's loss.
Sure.
Because if you don't play for 2 weeks and everyone else is in their conference tournament playing 3, 4, or 5 games in a weekend, Like you're gonna come out flat.
Wait,
and I don't think that should have been surprising.
Can I ask a potentially stupid question, even though I do believe there are no stupid questions? This will only be a thing for one more year, right? Because all of the new additions to the Pac-12 play baseball.
That would be even worse.
But
I don't think any of them have like solid baseball programs.
Well, I mean, San Diego State historically does. Gonzaga is distant. You could still play them.
Oh, but you're meaning for RPI. For RPI reasons.
I mean RPI purpose. But I don't think we're intending to stay independent beyond next year, right?
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine you're probably right, but dude, I don't know. You have to have a really, really strong non-conference schedule if that's the case.
But I feel like there's enough games for them to play with there.
Yeah, I suppose. I would rather Oregon State try to get into the Big 12 for baseball, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to figure out something else beyond the Pac.
Yeah.
Until the rest of the conference starts to maybe elevate more in the baseball world.
Sure. Well, they're not done adding teams, and there's potential that there could be.
But they could still, I don't see a real problem with trying to figure out an independent schedule every season. I mean, I know it's tiring, but
the only thing would be that conference tournament.
Yeah, but once you've done it once.
But I kind of think I
have to imagine the coaching staff. No, but think about it. The coaching staff's now done it. All right. We saw what happened. We didn't have a tournament. We took too long off. We had nothing we could do.
But they were having
between.
Like scrimmages and stuff. Like they were still.
It's not the same.
But maybe that still wasn't the answer. I mean, they'll figure something out. But obviously, there's no one to play, or they're just gonna be prepared for it. Maybe they thought they were prepared for it, and they could mentally prepare the players for this, like lapse in play. But
if it came down to it, I'd rather them do an independent schedule without a conference tournament than play.
Think about Caraway next year. What's he gonna be telling the team?
I haven't seen
any indication. But what's he gonna be telling the team?
That's But I haven't seen any indication that I feel like I think we're full. Yeah, I think we're fully in bed with the Pac-12, and it wouldn't look great if.
I feel like I did read something that was saying that
baseball is one of those sports where
feeling great about the conference.
Well, I don't think anyone should feel great.
I mean from a baseball perspective.
Yeah,
that the program or coaching staff was not.
Right. Yeah, I mean if you're playing a series
pushed into that.
If you're playing a series against Colorado State and then the next weekend you have Utah State and then Boise State, it's just like that's just tanking your RPI.
What was New York Institute of Technology doing during this time? They were the only other Division I independent baseball program in the nation.
Well, what? New York, because there aren't other independents for baseball. So, what do you do to solve that
New York Tech
conference tournament problem?
Yeah, you don't. If you're independent, you don't.
Right. So you'd have to join a conference or get invited to the conference. That would be fun.
They're not even active anymore. Bummer. They were. Well, I didn't even realize. Did you know that in 2019 they reached the Cultural Series?
And now they're not active.
New York Tech.
The New York.
Wait, they didn't reach Omaha. They reached
the
Cultural Series.
Meaning they made it to Omaha or they made it to the tournament?
They made it to the tournament.
In 2019, the program reached the Cultural Series for the first time in program history.
Is this ChatGPT or is this their actual
I don't know. I'm going to look this up now. I don't know if they have a website. Let's see. New York Tech.
I don't
baseball.
think that was a year after we won the national championship. I think I'd remember if New York Tech was in Omaha because I do look at that Rocco's Bar Jello shot standings, and I feel like New York Tech would come correct and would at least smash Stanford in Jello shots consumed per person, and that's something I would have made fun of Stanford for and therefore remembered. But I'm not perfect. So
they suspended their athletics program in August of 2020 for 2 years, including baseball. Everything else was D2.
So is this maybe as good of a potential Pac-12 addition, more so than the College of Cardinals per our last episode? Yeah.
No, dude, I want the College of Cardinals.
So when everyone else is playing, that's what they could do. You could go
have a series with them.
Well, you could go like to Europe that weekend and just like play
the
Italian national team, training for the World Baseball Classic. You wouldn't want to do that. The jet lag would do, but you could go like play like Mexican league teams. There are things you could do, or like you could try and bring. You could. I'm sure there's some other minor league teams that you could play if you wanted better competition than just in-house scrimmaging, but you also wouldn't want to risk injury. So that's obviously difficult. But I think there's a formula, and I don't think we should talk that much about this because we should maybe spend more time just gassing Trent Caraway and how amazing he is, and Dax Whitney and Mitch Canham and everybody. But there's maybe a way, especially if it's a smaller conference, like we have 8 teams now in the Pac-12, in the new Pac-12, that like you kind of have a hybrid independent schedule, but while also being in a conference a little bit, where you maybe you front load the hell out of it, and you can still have those midweeks against Oregon. You can figure some shit out with USC and UCLA, and
have UC Irvine come to town.
Yeah, and like those California schools will want good games on their schedule.
Cal Poly,
you can Cal Poly for sure.
Shout out
the Arizona schools.
Utah Valley State.
Utah Valley. Was it Utah Valley State or just Utah Valley? Doesn't fucking matter. They took care of business. Yeah. You can't railroad the catcher anymore, buddy. And then they lost to Utah Valley and Cal Poly, right?
Cal Poly. I think Cal Poly was the team where they pummeled the catcher.
I gotta say.
Oh no, that was
Utah Valley.
You play a team 4 times, you lose to them 4 times. It does make it hard to feel full satisfaction in talking shit. But what a hilarious pair of teams to lose to on your home field when you've been gassing shit up all goddamn year. And again, let's go back 15 years. The only reason you have a fucking baseball program is because of Oregon State.
It's true.
It's so funny.
There were so many surrender cobras in that crowd.
Neon yellow O out of the outfield. What the hell is this shit?
Yeah. And I'm going to tell all 12 Oregon Duck baseball fans, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of fans in the stands, but I think a couple of reps at Nike told them that's where the football spring game was taking place. And that's why those guys were there.
Yeah.
That's where the off-season trophy was being presented.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's where the coolest rendering of the first 3 renderings of College Football 26 award was being presented. Look, one section green's the next section yellow. That's something we never actually do for real games. And as we were talking, Georgia just scored again. Boom! Burn your ass across 3 years, Duck fans. Fuck it. Anyway, our baseball team's good. And let's celebrate them.
Better.
But
what was your guys' biggest takeaway?
I think like what JP said, getting hot at the right time.
Yeah.
I think it was firing off cylinders at the right time for what we're capable of doing.
Yep. I would say, and this is a hot take because I don't know if it's the biggest takeaway, but an underrated takeaway was the bullpen.
The bullpen was amazing.
Who was absolutely phenomenal. And they've been an area where Oregon State has historically struggled this year, to be honest, with being able to take leads and keep them. But the bullpen was fantastic this weekend, I thought. Because even in that first game against St. Mary's, right? Like Segura really fucked up in the first inning, but we only gave up 6 runs and he gave up 3 in a third of an inning and left the bases loaded. So, I mean, the bullpen, even in that game, did really well. So I think, and we'll get into it later, but I think that is what it's going to come down to in the series with Florida State is the bullpens.
Yeah.
Because Florida State's isn't good at all.
Yeah, but also in their rotation is good. Great, maybe.
They probably have the biggest disparity between their starting pitchers and their relief pitchers.
Yeah. I mean,
their starting pitchers are great.
For a couple of years in this Canham era.
Yeah.
Like where we just couldn't bridge the gap from like a quality start to a win.
Yeah, 100%.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. Yeah, and I think obviously the bat's getting hot That's clear and obvious.
I mean, let's be real. Trent getting hot is the biggest differential from what the team could do all season.
Right, because Caraway had kind of a down season this year compared to what expectations were supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, but those expectations were like carryovers from years ago before he battled through his injuries. So it's like, maybe expectation-wise, not fair for current Trent Caraway. Maybe fair if Trent Caraway, high school Trent Caraway, was able to play for the last couple of years, but like coming back and trying to like find his groove again, this is the right time to do so.
Yeah,
and he damn sure did get in his groove again.
Right. 100%. And confidence is everything in baseball. And I think Trent Caraway probably feels like he has a lot to prove because he was one of the top prospects when he came out in high school. And
he was top 100 MLB prospects out of high school. And he also, people had him preseason as like slotted in on his third year as like a first round pick. They had him like some of them had him like a top 15.
Right. So when you're
before
batting,
he even stepped foot in Goss.
Yeah.
Right.
So when you're batting, what, 7th or 8th in the order in your second full season, like you probably feel like you have a lot to prove. You probably feel like you're not living up to expectations in general, but certainly not your own expectations. And when you hit 5 home runs in 5 games and have, 9 RBIs and 10 runs or some crazy amount, 7 walks, like he's seen the ball incredibly well.
Maybe 10 and 9, but yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just like he was the catalyst to an incredibly dominant offense, which I think if he stays hot and you have Turley that stays hot and Iva, Arquette, Wilson Weber also.
Yeah, I was going to just
great performance.
Wilson Weber. He was amazing.
Yeah.
My favorite Wilson Weber play, I think this was the first game against USC after they smoked St. Mary's and they were just having their way with USC. I think it was like the 7th inning or something. There's a runner on first and he kind of had like it was like third pitch of the at bat or something. It's a ball that, and he was just like about to toss it back and then just gunned it to first, but like he didn't even turn his head and he almost got the guy. I think it was Tejas who looks exactly like our friend Sandwich Greg, which was lighting up the group chat. And he did. Hey, he got back. He saw what he was doing and he got back and it was safe. But I was just like, holy shit. I was like, Wilson Weber in his bag, behind the plate, at the plate, everywhere. And it was just like he's just feeling himself right.
For sure. And he was equally, you talked about the defensive side, but I would say like offensively, obviously like a big contributor to, the offense this weekend, but defensively compared to the other catchers in that regional, I mean, Wilson Weber is head and shoulders above where any of the other catchers
feel great
were.
With him behind the plate.
For sure.
Also on the defensive front, not to go back to Caraway, but no errors. He played great defense, which had been a very big struggle for him this season so far.
That's a great point. And you had defense really all over the field. You had, was it Caraway that got the ball off the wall, gunned it into Arquette, who gunned it into Weber?
Talt, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That might make it, but Talt's arm from that corner outfield spot is scary. And
it was like
to the point where I was like, he had like an incredible. There was a play that should have been like a triple that Talt held to a single, and we were up by like 10 runs at that point. I was just like, shit, let him get to third. Don't let him know that you have that out there. You said like, I know the coaches have watched every inning of fucking baseball that this team has played, but I was just kind of, like, hey, like let them think that there's not a laser out there for a second and see what happens. But yeah, our arms, from that spot, I think are pretty ridiculous. And that could be, when you're in a very tightly contested super regional, if those arms save one run, that can be the distance between going to Omaha and going home.
Yeah. 100%. You know who else I thought did incredibly well, not just in terms of like looking at the game, but his poise was Dax Whitney. I mean, true freshman coming into your first postseason game at Goss, which was wild. Shout out to anybody that went to Goss. That environment looked incredible.
Really popped on TV.
Yeah,
it always
really
does,
did.
but it looked and sounded fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dax Whitney, man, comes into the game with your backs against the wall because it's an elimination game. You have to win your next 4 games, and you're playing TCU. TCU was getting odds that were very close to Oregon State's in terms of who's going to win that regional. Like TCU,
they had more picks than we did.
People thought they were on the cusp of hosting a regional. Yeah. They weren't like a flimsy number 2 seed. So you're going against a TCU squad who has some power too, and you throw a gem. Like he looked incredible. Yeah. And so that, to me, like that's what you want to see almost more than anything else, right? Like Dax Whitney, we all know he has a lot of talent. His ceiling's really high, but you always wonder, like, was a freshman going to perform when the pressure's on? And I mean, you can't have much, right? Yeah. You can't have, much more pressure
Abel on the podcast. If we go to Omaha, Kevin Abel next week if the Beavs go to Omaha. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
If the Vikings go to Omaha,
then something
so impressive,
crazy is going to happen.
Are you talking about Portland State?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe add him to the independent schedule at that.
Yeah, sure. I'd rather face New York Tech, who doesn't even have any athletic programs anymore.
Benny, I know this is yours. So let's kind of get into this super regional talk. 43 and a half minutes into this podcast episode. And I know this was the question. I think this is the question that you wanted to focus on. And we are recording. This conversation is happening Thursday night, June 5th. Hopefully this is up before the first pitch of Friday's game. I'm not trying to throw shade your way.
Don't give me too many edits.
But yeah, I'm not requesting shit. I'm trying not to stutter. I'm just, misconstruing my sports a little bit here. But Friday night against the Noles, do you think Dax Whitney deserves that start?
I think he does. Man, it's going to be tough because Florida State's going to throw out Jamie Arnold, and Jamie Arnold is not potential, almost penned in top 5 draft pick.
Should I go smoke pot with Jamie Arnold?
Yeah, go smoke pot with Jamie Arnold right before the game.
Yeah, on the mound.
No, that might even make him better. Shit.
But here's the thing, like, so he has a ton of talent, but he does have above a 3.0 ERA. So I don't know what to make of it. Like, I think he's done a lot better in the second half of the season than in the first half of the season, but he's going to be tough either way. And I think I've been watching a lot of sort of predictions on what sort of the national pundits are expecting in this series, which I do think, other than maybe Tennessee and Arkansas, is the most excited about this series.
Oh yeah.
Just because of the quality of both of these teams. But what the national pundits were saying is like, expect Florida State to win the first game, and then Oregon State should be able to take the next 2. I don't think that's the case. I think Whitney is pitching as well as what Arnold might be able to throw out there. And I think you should throw Dax Whitney out in the first game and Ethan Kleinschmidt out in the second game.
Right. It's not like you're losing anything with Kleinschmidt out there.
Well, and you can't, because Dax Whitney and Kleinschmidt are the 2 best pitchers, and it's not very close after that. And if you potentially are only going to play 2 games, those 2 have to be your starters in game 1 and game 2. And I don't think you can play a game where you're saving somebody for game 3. So yes, I think Dax Whitney should be out there. I think Oregon State, here's what the key to success I think is going to be. If you can rough up the starting pitcher and get to their bullpen early, like that's the recipe for a win. And I know that's sort of obvious, but as I said before, like Florida State only has 2 relief pitchers that have an ERA below 4. So if you can get to their relief pitchers, if you can get to their bullpen, and with the way that we've been hitting the ball,
Right.
I don't want to say game over, but that moves the tide much more.
We also
Oregon
were
State's
working
favor.
the count incredibly in the regional. Like we were getting deep in the counts and getting hits and getting walks and forcing the issue.
But that'll be an interesting perspective. It'll be hard.
Yeah.
Like we did not fare well against lefties all year, and Arnold and the rest of their rotation, they're all lefty. But
which is so weird because like our whole starting lineup is right-handed hitters.
Yeah, but we have shown signs of life against lefties this weekend. Yeah. I think that if we can drive up pitch counts, if we can get to something favorable, that's really good for our hitters. But also if we can just kind of wait them out and then run them out early. But on the counter of that is if your season's on the line, are you pulling Arnold for pitch count?
Probably not.
No, that's what I think, that you can have Arnold pitching like 120
exactly
pitches in the game.
I think it's more about jumping on him early when he's worried that if we drive up the count, he might not have his stuff late in the game where he might need to carry the team to a victory. So if anything, he's going to come in the zone early, and we should be ready to strike. And I think that actually we should be as least patient as possible,
swinging early in
at
counts.
least through the first few innings,
and
see how he settles in. But like, if we wait him out too long, I don't think it's going to benefit us because he's just gonna. He might have to throw his arm off for them.
It's not
even though they might pitch tomorrow if they do win. Yeah,
and I think Florida State coaches are going to expect him to do that. And I think those are conversations that have already been had of you're going to pitch over 100 pitches for sure.
Yeah.
So, but I think that that's going to be the key. Oregon State's bullpen is significantly better. So like JP said, if you can jump on him early, like I think Dax Whitney has the talent to hold that lead until, the sixth.
That's why I like Whitney on Friday, because let's say we save him thinking we'll get him in a position and maybe clinch us.
Like if we win on Friday, we could have Whitney to play on Saturday.
But if we can't figure out Arnold, which is a fair concern.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess you have to leave this to the coaches, but is Whitney's makeup the kind that can go take the ball like at this level? I mean, this is like now a step away from Omaha. And I'm sure the talent's there, but is the head there? That's a really hard task to put on a freshman.
I think it's a great time to find out. And even if it doesn't work, I don't think
Friday's the great time to find out.
Yeah, Friday's
not Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. I think Friday's a great time for that to find out. Yeah. And even if it gets to tomorrow night and it's Kleinschmidt out there, like I'm not going to be like, what the fuck is Canada doing? Kleinschmidt's incredible. So like I'd feel fine with that too.
They want Dax to go Saturday because they believe he does have the mental makeup to block out all the noise and just go throw.
What I'm worried about is if they throw Segura out there. And no shade on Segura. He played really well in game 5. He did, but you have to throw out your two best arms. You just have to in the first 2 games. So I know that Segura and Keljo have sort of been going back and forth with that Friday night start, but I think that it would be a mistake to put either one of them out there for game 1 or game 2.
Or you look at the numbers and you go, the game still has to be played, but it's going to take a miracle maybe to get past Arnold. Maybe they see something where they go, we're going to struggle. Oh, either we keep it close, like if we give Segura 2 runs, like, is that still going to be enough? Like, is it enough for Dax? I mean, like this is a hard call because Arnold's definitely a top 5 pick and he's a lefty and they got a pretty decent rotation, but nothing really.
That's where I
holds a candle
to him.
Friday
night with the kid, just put Dax out there and
let it see what happens.
Let him meet the moment, and if he doesn't meet the moment, you have another chance on Saturday, and you have a very, very capable arm to throw out there, and then like you mentioned about Segura and Keljo and the rest of the You have what it takes to win this in 3 if you need to. If you do drop the first one, but
right. So might as well seal the one against
the
Arnold.
Lights are going to be bright, and you've got like, all right, here is a top 5, and I don't know if like I was watching when, I think so because Whitney pitched against TCU, and it was the next day, and during that game against St. Mary's, I think Oregon State was up like 14-3 at this point when the broadcast interviewed Dax in the dugout during, the 5th or 6th inning, which often is kind of just like, we're just going to do this at this point in the game. But if you kind of read between the lines and pay attention, there are things to take away from those interactions. And he felt, poised. He wasn't like a super dynamic soundbite, but he didn't sound like a freshman in college. He sounded
at all
quite a bit more polished, and just, the way like he talked about where I do think he can hit the mound in that kind of atmosphere where I think Saturday is the easier start. It's the day after game 1 and like you kind of know what you need to do. Friday, it's like, we've been gassing about baseball for the last 5 days and thinking about it for the last 5 days. And now like, I hit that step in the dugout, and now I'm on the bump, and Goss is jumping, and the third tickets on the third party are $900 to get into Goss or whatever fucking monstrosity it is right now. I think that's the high end.
Come on, build more seats.
Build more seats.
State.
That's really.
Please.
And the next 2 hours of this episode will be us talking about our plan to build more seats that got rejected by the university.
And put a student section in the bleachers.
Let's get some bleacher creatures, bleacher bums, bleacher beavs, bleacher something. Get a whole thing around the bleachers, even if it's just a hill. Long live Ho Hill to sit there and get drunk on and make noise. I'm not saying for those home games in February or March that it's going to be super utilized and super vibrant. It won't be, but in moments like this, you'll be glad you put it there.
And if they call it Ho Hill, a grass knoll in left field.
Where is the respect for heritage?
Yeah, have it extend from banners.
You have a whole college of horticulturalists. You can move that hill from behind Weatherford to behind Goss. Don't tell me that's impossible. You have the landscaping technology to do that.
And the hill's only there because it was like a landfill of a like dining hall.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Tiny dining hall.
That was a tiny dining hall.
I used to dance under
it only had Calabaloos in it.
Anyways, Friday. Yeah, I bet you convinced me. Dax on Friday.
Like 60 years ago.
Yeah, I think Dax on Friday, man. Got to go with them. And I agree with you 100%. I came away thinking the same thing. Sort of that takeaway that you got from Malik Murphy the first time that he talked, and you're like, they should
start
different.
Malik Murphy on Friday.
They should.
Did he throw the first pitch a month ago?
You get one celebrity shot that you have to use. Oregon State has one pitch for Malik Murphy, and Florida State has one pitch for DJ Uyunglele.
I was just going to say, we both could have DJ.
They have to use it at some point. Yeah.
If the game ends and you haven't used your celebrity throw, you forfeit.
Yeah, exactly.
You lose.
Yeah. No, I think DJ might have Malik on the.
DJ played
baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Malik might have.
Maybe this
we're
is
not as deep in that.
Bad idea.
But I would love to see DJU at Goss this weekend.
Yeah, same.
At least Big Dave. Hopefully, Big Dave makes it.
Yeah.
Anything else, you guys, on this? I think Benny has a million things, but let's go.
I think we've covered most of them. I do think that the travel is going to play into this as well. I think traveling from Tallahassee up to Oregon State, I don't think Florida State's done anything close to this type of travel.
They have some transfer guys that are like, they have an Arizona State guy in their bullpen. I mean, they have some guys that not in a singular travel situation, but it may seem less unfamiliar.
West Coaster.
More at home. And I think it's not necessarily like the uncomfortability, because they've played some SEC schools that have higher capacity stadiums
but
than
distance.
what Goss does.
I agree distance, but I'm just saying like it may not seem as foreign and far to a guy that played on the West Coast, even if they are all the way in Tallahassee. But that's very few in between. But I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see if the travel weighs on them.
Yeah, you would think that Florida State would have sent the team out like, Tuesday or Wednesday. But if they didn't, then travel could play a big part of it. That's a long ways.
The Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
they're trying to ford the river in Independence, Missouri right now.
They got
that's not too far. I'll drive down there and fuck up their wagons right now.
You died of dysentery.
Yeah. Don't talk shit. Don't talk shit.
Did I make that meme or did I find it in college?
I think you
died
found
of dysentery. I don't know.
Were you the originator of that meme? Because that's a meme that like people in every pocket of my life have sent me that meme. So if that started with you, Terry, that's a girl's name. You have died of dysentery. Stumble Upon was ahead of its time. Stumble Upon would do numbers right now. That's essentially what the internet is.
Yeah.
It's not like I miss Stumble Upon so much. You can just sit there, click, stumble, and it would just give you the most random shit. Okay, bringing it back. I'm going to just say my thing I'm looking at for the weekend is more fireworks from Arquette and Caraway because they feast on fastballs, and Arnold, he's got a bit of a sweeper slider, but he's mostly a fastball guy. So
I like your pick with Arquette. I think Arquette's going to meet the challenge. Yeah,
and I think that that could be the difference on Friday tomorrow. I do. Like I think that those guys they could take him out of the game at least mentally if they're able to get around those fastballs.
Arquette, Turley, Caraway, Weber. We are going to need some heroics from someone other than those four names.
Yeah.
And
it's a good call.
And I'm not trying to criticize the rest of the team. I thought AJ Singer was phenomenal at that cannon reader was phenomenal. Lots of, just really smart baseball being played, really well executed baseball being played. But there's going to be a moment where it's like we need a big play or a big at bat.
Dallas Macias
bomb would be
fantastic.
So.
That would be so awesome.
Think about Arnold and the Seminoles pitching staff, who they have circled, right? Like, if you're not one of them, a
non-circled batter needs to have a moment that will live in eternity for Beaver fans.
Yeah. Make them pay for not circling your name.
Yeah. Make them pay for not circling your name. Make them pay for, I think a part of the USC thing, and this was maybe very one-sided and only on the Beaver fans' mind, but I told you guys in our group chat, it was just like, you cannot fucking lose to USC in baseball. After everything that's happened since June 30th, 2022, you have to route these fuckers. Even if I doubt USC's athletic director was even paying attention. I doubt their president was even paying attention. But we talk about this in sports all the time. Worry about the things that you can control. It's a university that wronged you. It's a university that took some actions that caused irreparable harm that forced you into a position that you now have to navigate for the next handful of years. And whether the guys on the team who are here for, who are here for a good time, but not a long time, care about that or not, it's like it meant a lot to me that we just flexed on those bitches. And Florida State's not in that same position.
Mark McGuire, he ruined MLB.
Fuck Mark McGuire.
Yeah.
Did he go to USC?
Yeah, he went to USC. And Mark Pryor also went to USC. What did Mark Pryor do when he was coming into the draft and the Twins had the first pick? He said, I will die before I play for the Minnesota Twins. And we said, fuck you. We're drafting Joe Mauer, you asshole.
Yeah.
He's from here.
Enjoy your short career, Mark Pryor.
You think we're drafting you over Joe Mauer? Yeah. Eat a dick, Mark Pryor. Enjoy 8 seconds of relevance at Wrigley. He was better longer than that, but still. And Florida State's not much longer. Florida State's not the same, but it's like cut from the same cloth. And there it's like
very much cut from the same cloth.
They could have fought to get you in the ACC. They could have been like, hey, we've got this Saudi Arabia money. We can cut you into Oregon State.
They want out, though.
Florida State's trying to do the same thing as USC.
They want out.
They're trying to implode the ACC.
It's a different villain that doesn't care about you.
Do this for Cal.
No,
the guys are going to get beaten down by Florida State.
Absolutely don't do it for Stanford, and absolutely don't do it for Cal. But it's not even the color scheme's virtually the same as USC. It is a harbinger
Cardinal and gold
of everything that we hate about college sports right now. And I'm not saying that that's the same, like every baseball player at Florida State, you know, like baseball programs at most schools get the fucking run around and get ignored. But
hey, Buster Posey was a Seminole.
I know. And he was a great Seminole.
So was Cal Raleigh.
I didn't say there weren't great Seminoles. I'm saying for this weekend.
Hey, I was listening to a Florida State pod that was previewing this weekend, and they're talking shit. They said friends don't let friends wear orange. I think it was in reference to Florida, but I don't care.
Or Clemson.
Because they tried it with us.
Well, I've seen a lot of writers too, college baseball writers who know more than me. It's like, well, Florida State has a tendency to play down to their competition. I'm worried they're going to play down to Oregon State this weekend. And I'm like,
yeah,
you bitches are at Goss. Like, what are you playing down to?
Let's give Florida State as a program credit. Like they are elitely, blue blood. Like, I mean,
I think
I'm not saying they're not.
They've been to like,
I'm not saying
they've been to 19 Super Regionals. This will be their 20th,
and haven't won it ever.
And they've been to Omaha.
How many Jello shots?
That many times.
How many Jello shots?
They've never won. Yeah.
How many Jello shots
they've never won?
Rocco's more than Stanford. Actually, I think Florida State's probably got a pretty good Jello shot record in Omaha.
Yeah, I would imagine Florida State probably does.
I think us and Florida State fans.
Challenges you can't back.
I wish I was at Goss this week. I think us and Florida State fans would probably have a pretty damn good time together.
I think so too.
in most circumstances.
I think if I get 15 White Claws, I can have a hell of a lot of Jello shots. Bring it on, Florida State.
We'd be like, hey, Mario Cristobal's a bitch. And they'd be like, yeah, Mario Cristobal's a fucking bitch. And we'd be like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And we could kick it. And they'd be like, yeah, it's not
How
DJU.
do you guys feel about DJU?
Like, it's not. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. And we'll be like, yeah, it wasn't his fault. It was other shit. Alabama was scared of you.
Here's another stat. Florida State, let me get this right, is 14-7, I believe, on the road. So good, but not great. And remember, like they're playing ACC teams, which ACC was decent.
That
this
is
year.
the winning percentage you do need to win a best of 3 series.
Yeah,
but Oregon State is 21-3 at home.
That's true. That's better. 21-3 is better than 14-7.
It is better. So, anyways, the last question I have for you guys is: I think we are all in agreement that we think Oregon State's going to win the series.
Yes.
But do you think Oregon State wins 2-0 or 2-1?
2-1. I think it's going to be close. Yeah, 2-1.
I think it's going to be 2-1 as well. I think they're going to lose the first game.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll lose the first game, but I think if we win the game, I think that if we pull off our game plan, we could win tomorrow. But I think that's going to be something that's going to send a shockwave through the locker room for Florida State, where they're going to be like, they're not going to get us like this. And we might let ourselves rest on our laurels a little bit that we snuck one and got the W against Arnold. So I could see us going a little lax on Saturday.
I think this is going to be razor's edge, maybe extras in all 3 games. And it's going to be like multiple heart attacks, like pound if it comes starting now, because first pitch is probably coming whenever you're listening to this.
I think Canham is going to roll out Segura or Keljo. I really do, because he is. I think
Tomorrow?
so. He is shied.
Well, then I mean,
He shied away.
I
He shied away from changing it up. He likes
Sure.
to keep things consistent.
but then you do.
But maybe that's all a facade for these moments.
Sure.
it could be. Could be.
As a professional baseball
You
coach
still have
myself,
your-
I like these mind games.
You have your two like most like explosive guns then for Saturday and Sunday. You just have
That's right.
to win Saturday. And
Yeah.
I would prefer to front load it a little bit, but I'm not in the locker room with them. Obviously, none of us are. And if he thinks,
I'm hiding in there.
the body's right. JP is the naked man walking
up against-
walking
Yeah.
up the street.
What is this tree doing in the locker room?
You always think we're
I-
fucking around, listeners, at the beginning of the episode. We bring it full circle every
Yeah,
time.
always,
Stop doubting us.
always.
This is 182. We're not
Yeah,
fucking
and also,
around.
I'll wait to close the loop on something else, even though it's not really closing the
Right.
loop. It's just
Well,
kind
just
of a
because
loop.
I mean,
It's a loop.
if
Loop to loop.
Canham's observations are like, oh, like Dax, he could pitch Friday, but he'd be more ready Saturday, or Kleinschmidt could pitch Friday, but he'd be more ready Saturday, or more ready Sunday, then that's something to take into account as well. And only he and Dorm and the rest of the coaching staff know that in a way that we don't. But I think when you're at this point of the season, you kind of throw just like, all right, like you have to play like to win this game and act like there's no tomorrow, because there isn't. And I think it's a week rest. It's plenty of rest for a freshman in college, especially of the athletic caliber of Dax Whitney. I don't think you're messing with his mental makeup to have him pitch on a Friday night instead of a Saturday night. So,
But baseball's a
would do that.
two-way sport. I wouldn't be surprised if they thought, if we sneak a win, great.
Sure.
And then we have Dax going Saturday. If we don't, thank God we have Dax Saturday.
Sure.
I'm just saying there's more than just what you think that the pitcher might be capable and ready to do. There's a lot about what's our offense going to be ready to do, and what are we going to have the opportunity to do. So I would not be surprised if
it's
Friday was let's see what we can get, but we're ready for Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, and the other thing is we scored 43 runs in 2 days. So
is that good?
I mean,
is that good?
Arnold is a great pitcher, but
Again, watch
I
our
don't know if
watch
he's
Caraway.
That's not very good.
I don't know
output
if
in
he's
basketball, but in baseball, that's good.
It may have done better than some of our basketball teams when we were in school. Who knows? But yeah, I think I'm expecting a very low scoring game on Friday night, but I also wouldn't be terribly surprised if we drop 5-6 runs on Arnold. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Depends how we do to get on base. If we work some counts and maybe he's a little flustered and he doesn't come in the zone, we get some walks, then we're going to live or die, I think, tomorrow by the long ball.
Yeah, agreed. Especially if he's a fastball pitcher. Yeah.
Would you be that surprised if they did that to us, regardless of who's pitching? Like, is this an offense?
No, they've got some mashers.
They do. Their offense was consistent in the regionals, but they didn't put up double digits in any of the games.
They got 4 dudes with 16 bombs. I mean, there's potential to break it open there too. So yes, I think everyone needs to be at the top of the game defensively. And if we're going to win, it's got to be bases on and we deliver likely with, the few chances we have to put the ball in play. They better be over the fence on Friday. I'm not saying all weekend, I just mean Friday. Yeah. So I have to close the loop on Mark McGuire and USC because he was also teammates with Jack Del Rio.
And Jack Del Rio.
Oh, really?
USC.
Jack Del Rio.
The Jacksonville Jaguars head coach?
And Minnesota Vikings linebacker.
Father of whatever Del Rio, the quarterback we had for a bit. And then he transferred.
Yeah.
That's right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Luke Del Rio? Was it Luke?
Yeah, Luke. Yeah.
That
Luke.
sounds
Good
right.
memory.
Yeah.
So he played with Jack Del Rio. Mm-hmm. He also played with Randy Johnson, and this one's very random, but I guess Rodney Peete.
Oh, at
played
USC.
baseball with him at USC. Yeah.
Rodney Peete.
Yeah.
Detroit Lions immortality.
Interesting USC
Imagine
baseball
that
team.
Imagine that clubhouse. I don't know how fun Randy Johnson or Jack Del Rio were, but I'm sure Mark was wild, and I would imagine Rodney was cool.
Yeah. I think Jack Del Rio was cool. In that sense.
Just because he played on the Vikings.
Yeah, he was one of those like kind of crazy, more fun NFL head coaches in an era where they're not really that fun.
That's
I bet
fair.
Randy Johnson was so intense on a day that he was pitching that night.
Randy of taking photographs of birds exploding.
Isn't it kind of Randy Johnson and Ken Griffey Jr. have both been credentialed as photographers for Super Bowls.
Like,
it's kind of wild that it's like
crazy.
both their like hobbies and they're both like good at it.
Yeah,
It's just the Pacific Northwest. There's so many beautiful things to take pictures of.
That's true. Yeah, you get a lot of practice. But Griffey had like somebody like posted a photo after the Super Bowl, and they were like, "Look how great this photo is." I forget what
Someone was like, Ken Griffey Jr. took this photo, and it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Stop being good at shit, Junior. Damn it.
Yeah, he goes to the Masters too to do.
That's what it was. The Masters.
He had like a perfect like sunrise over Eamon's corner, and someone's like at the Masters is like, God, this photo is serenity, and it's like Ken Griffey Jr. took this photo, and it's like, wait, what?
He's a golf photographer now. Randy Johnson's a football photographer. What is this world coming to?
Randy Johnson does get the best shots because he just towers over everyone.
Yeah, there's never a crowd in front of him.
Do you remember Randy Johnson as a Yankee? Because he wasn't there very long. But the day he like signed with the Yankees and he was like on his way to the facility in the Bronx, there was like paparazzi out there and he just like shoved a photographer over because he was like in his way on the sidewalk.
I'm the best one.
Like,
get out of my way.
And it's like now he's a photographer at not even just like, oh, I'm doing the like I go to the park and take pictures of birds exploding, whatever. He's like a credentialed photographer at sporting events. And I don't think anyone can really threaten to shove over the big unit. Or a dude whose legal name literally means horny penis. But you'd think he might have like some reflection.
Legally.
Like, oh, yeah, I bowled over a dude doing literally what I'm doing right now. For no reason. For no reason. He did it. I remember I saw that video over and over again. The guy was just like, hey, Randy,
what'd you think about that bird, Randy?
Other people had cameras
birds and they keep exploding, and he's like, "Why does this keep happening?"
When you're a high-paid athlete in New York, people tend to show up wherever you are and ask questions. It's kind of part of the deal.
I mean, you go from Montreal, Seattle, Houston,
New York,
Phoenix.
and then Phoenix.
New
York, then Phoenix.
He was still in his prime in Phoenix. He was part of that World Series. He went back
after the Yankees. Yeah. And then he came to the Giants, and then he got his 300th win with the Giants at home because he's a Bay Area kid. He's a Walnut Creek kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he came home, got his 300th win, and then
I thought he was pretty washed.
Walked off in the sunset.
He must have been like 45 years old.
He was hell old.
He threw.
How old is he?
He's got to be pretty old.
He was 43 when he won.
He was like 40 something.
The World Series with Diamondbacks.
He was already 40 when he won World Series. He wasn't 40.
He was like 43, wasn't he?
No, he was still in his. He was like 30.
Or maybe that's when he went back to the Diamondbacks.
When he went back, he was like 40 something, and then he came to the Giants a year later or a year and a half later.
There was him and Schilling.
He was like 43 or 44.
Primes.
Yeah.
They had the most devastating 1-2 punch. It's fuck Curt Schilling. But
yeah, I think he was
awesome.
I was blocked by Curt Schilling because I think I tweeted at him early in the Twitter lifetime, and I said something like, shut up, Curt Schilling, because he was saying something about a game or something I was watching, and I just wrote all caps, shut up, Curt Schilling, and then I didn't realize until like years later that he blocked me, and I was like, why would he block me? I don't even say anything. I looked at my Twitter history, and I was like,
Right. And then
it's back
and
from
of course, Curt
5
Schilling,
years ago.
Sensitive.
Curt Schilling talks
Yeah.
about people being soft all the time.
Yeah.
You can't make
And all I
jokes
said
anymore.
was,
One kid says,
Shut up, Curt Schilling, in all caps. Yeah. It's probably still my account. If you go look up at the Trail J and look up
I'm not
whatever
doing that
Curt
much
Schilling's handle is, you can find it. It's
They made
there.
it. They
It
did.
still
They made it
exists.
harder to look up old tweets on Twitter.
It's in the Smithsonian or wherever they
because
used to
made
have all the tweets.
Everything about Twitter sucks now. Even looking up
Well,
old
wasn't
shit.
there-
So
I don't
used to
have
be-
it.
There's
It was
still
a
an
national-
advanced search shit, but it's like it used to be so like, oh yeah, I remember that tweet. You could just like punch in what you remembered and it would come up instantly. They ruined that
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah, now it's like, oh, you already saw it, so we're showing you more stuff. Sorry,
Right.
you
They're
can't
like,
search for a
no,
thing you
you
already
didn't-
saw.
yeah, you didn't
While your
see
phone
that.
would turn back on and
Oh,
reload.
did you
want
to see the thing you searched
Oh,
for?
it's gone.
Or did you want to see 17 million ads that were published today? Because here those are.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah.
Lord. Way to ruin a perfect website. Anyways, this has
Blue
been the
Sky,
180. Blue Sky is
Twitter's
still good.
still
I haven't deleted it yet, but it's it's dumb. It's way
It's done, but
dumber than this podcast, which just finished its 182nd episode, which is probably 182
Really dumb.
more than anyone bet on us. We
Yeah.
outlasted
I would
Larry
agree.
Scott. We outlasted
We did.
Mark McGuire at USC.
Yeah. And yeah, all right. That
Luke
I don't know if we
Del
had
Rio.
less than that.
We outlasted the Luke Del Rio era. Man, that was it.
Of
Wasn't
USC
his fault.
baseball.
Anyway,
Oh, the Jack Del Rio era of the
Beaver
USC.
fam.
That's who we had last.
Holy shit, you guys
did.
really brought it at Goss. I'm a little, I wouldn't say I'm concerned, but I'm seeing these SeatGeek prices of people selling their tickets to Goss, and I'm just like, why would you sell it? This fucking go, dude. You're gonna,
Just go.
yeah, like, what, you're gonna move these tickets for $800 that you're just gonna put into your mortgage that you'll pay for somehow anyway, and not be there, not be there. Come on, be there.
Come on.
Be loud, be proud, be drunk if you choose to partake in that part of it. Don't be naked, as we talked about at the beginning of the show. It's a great way to get kicked out of a baseball game, whether college super regionals or little league. You should be naked in the comfort of your own home or just in whatever privacy that you can find. Don't be naked at Goss this weekend, but be pretty much everything else. Go Beavs, support the boys. Mitchie Slick with the double ones.
Mitchie
We
Slick.
believe in you. We need to get back to Omaha so that we can, or someone can,
Go.
release a proper volume 3 of O State Ballas.
Oh.
Oh, I hope Mitch does that.
We'll have some O State Ballas on the show next week if Oregon State wins the Super Regional.
Yeah.
Not just 5 seconds, because that's a song I know we can play without getting in trouble. And both of those songs.
Yeah.
And we'll,
Watch Mitch sue us.
Mitch will come on the show to sue us to our faces. Because
Live.
The athletic department is just
yeah, Mitch will
waiting
come
for
on
a
the show,
chance.
but he's just coming on to serve us.
Yeah.
And whatever.
I'd be down with that.
Go Beavs. Fuck Florida State this weekend. Thank you so much for listening to this, the 182nd episode of the Belligerent Beavs podcast. Go ahead and follow the show on social media if you haven't yet, which would be kind of crazy if you're at, minute 84 of this episode and aren't following it. But man, sometimes shit happens. We're still on Twitter despite talking shit about it for the last 5 minutes at Beavs, at Belligerent Beavs everywhere else. That means Instagram. That means Facebook. That means TikTok. That means, are we on Twitch? Do we have a Twitch?
Yeah.
Our shit goes up on Twitch. It goes up on
No.
YouTube. No. I love
But now I want to sign up for
I
one
love
right
the
now.
conviction of which you just said, yeah.
Oh yeah, I watched us on there.
Yeah, exactly. And on the ESPN Sports Center app, you can watch Belligerent Beavs.
That
BelligerentBeavs.com.
app doesn't
the
exist
Ocho.
anymore.
BelligerentBeavs.com/merch. Orders have been coming in for the
Yeah.
Goss Got 'em and Goss Got 'em again shirt.
Yes.
So we might need,
Yeah.
we might
And
need to
maybe
put
we have
out
to get
some
Goss
links.
Got
Yeah.
'em 3.
Goss Got 'em 3 this weekend,
Oh.
like Jurassic Park 3. That was the first third movie in a franchise that came to mind of all the movies. My mind is weird. Don't worry about it. Thank you for following the show. My name is Terry Horseman. You can follow me at Terry Horseman on Twitter, at Terry Horseman on Blue Sky, at Terrence Horseman on Instagram. And I'm joined, as I always am, by my best friends from college who did a great job as groomsmen.
You don't have to say from college.
Well, two of my best friends. My two best friends, my two favorite human beings on the planet.
There you go.
Benjamin Lawrence, Sebastian Wehage, a man of many names and many interests and many looks and many dialects and many nicknames, a.k.a. Benny with the good cough, a.k.a. Benny Bedlam, because he's fucking crazy, folks, a.k.a. Benny Bowl Game, a.k.a. Benny Blastoff, a.k.a. Benny Burner. I think you've been using the burner too much. In fact, you're like pretty much off Twitter, but that's exactly when burners strike. And AKA Benny Scoops. You can follow him at Benny L. Benny L 1986 on everything but Twitter. And of course, the man on the ones and twos steering the ship behind the plate, as it were, is Joe Mauer. Just kidding. It's JP Bertram at JP Bertram on Instagram. At the Trill J on Twitter. That's at the _Trill _J, because he's too trill to be real. It would be cool if Joe Mauer was here. We could put that ask in. He's retired now. He's just chilling. He's in multiple Hall of Fames, resting his leg. Like, come on, Joe. Come on the show.
We're resting his legs, plural, bilateral.
Both bilateral legs, resting them bilaterally.
Yeah.
And follow us, for gosh darn sakes, at Belligerent Beavs on Twitter, at Belligerent Beavs everywhere else. I think I already started doing this. BelligerentBeavs.com, BelligerentBeavs.com/merch. Get your Goss Stadium tees. Be loud, be proud, be drunk, be fun, be excited. It's the Super Regionals in Corvallis, Oregon. Goss Stadium at Coleman Field. God damn it. Let's go.
God damn it.
Let's go. God damn it. Let's go, Beavs, is what Pope Leo XIV said in a Vatican press release about the College World Series when reached by a Belligerent Beavs correspondent. And remember, no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they take away, they cannot spell ChopEm without hope. So ChopEm. He's back in the Super Regionals, baby.
Hey guys, wait, what time is the Oregon game this weekend?